This is a mini episode where Michelle and I continued chatting after our episode of a quarter equina syndrome, and we started talking about her personal experience with menopause and what she's been using both in her work and personally. We decided to turn this into a mini episode, really just focusing on menopause and spinal cord injury. I hope that you enjoy this special extra gift, and I really want to thank Michelle for sharing this with us. I was also just wanting to pick your brain for a second there on menopause. Spinal cord injury and menopause is coming up more and more here. We're very poorly resourced in Australia in terms of best practice. Or do you know what they're doing over there in terms of the management of menopause and spinal cord injury or resources? Or
we're very similar situation to you. So I've been put on HRT, and a lot of people have still got an issue with HRT. But actually, it's changed so much. I mean, the hot sweats are massive because the temperature control for people with spinal cord injury as well. It's like overlapping what we know about spinal cord injury and what people are telling us about menopause. So it's actually, yes, you're going to sweat more. So what about your skin integrity? How is that? So it's a bit like, when you're pregnant, how do you manage your body differently? If you sat down, or if you're struggling to walk, what positions would you use and how do you manage that? In menopause, it's about how is it affecting you? What about your moods? And how does that affect your relationship? Yeah. So it's about our skill that we have about spinal cord injury, because the treatment isn't different.
Thinking through this clinically, we've got sweating and skin management, mood, like general mental health and sort of well-being. What about like upper limb injuries and that sort of elasticity? We know that shoulder issues in menopause, in the general population, even perimenopause, that's kind of my issue at the moment, is this bloody shoulder. It came out of nowhere. Menopause management and spinal cord injury hasn't, like in my clinical time, I can't remember ever talking about it in the last 20 years, which says a lot. But then hysterectomy was pretty common. I felt like a lot of the women were getting hysterectomies even kind of like up to 10 years ago, whether it was to just menstruation management was just so bloody complicated, or they maybe had endo and other kind of complications, that a lot of the women I work with have had a hysterectomy. And so that was sort of like, okay, well, that's like women's health stuff's dealt with, but it's not, because now we've got this like whole other window of time and people are just like, I am on struggle street, and like wanting to murder their partners as well. So
yeah. I added testosterone to mine.
Okay.
But it took me a lot of persuading, and it was only because of my job, I suppose, that my GP took me seriously and said, okay, you know what you're talking about, you've studied it. So getting the HRT, like the estrogen progesterone patch, that was transdermal, but actually that wasn't giving me, and I thought, how can I do my job? I have no desire. I'm like, I can do all the CBT in the world and I can put my own practices in. But I wasn't even doing that. I was getting to arousal and it wasn't there. And I was like, okay, I know how to deal with this stuff. Keep going. And it's bloody hard. And then I got testosterone, and obviously it was taking a little bit too much, I think. I could have, pardon the expression, I'm going to really rude, shagged the doorknob.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, it was like, I felt like I've turned into like pubescent boy, just wanting to do everything. And I was like, this is a little bit much. And then my hair started falling out. I was like,
oh interesting. Yeah, okay.
And I was like, no, I can't do that. So I really reduced it. But when I reduced it, I had no effect sexually from the reduction. So I have now come off it for a time, but gone back to baseline. It's like, I remember my dad saying when he was on his cancer drugs, he went, nobody could tell you what this feels like, having no desire at all. He said, this is just, I never thought I would ever feel like that. And I kind of get where he's coming from. And I think sexually it's massive. And it's good to be able to do the things that we do with this sensual focus and talk about it, because then a partner can understand it a lot better.
Yeah.
But when you're just feeling angry and you have no desire, you know that saying, I don't know if you have it, she's not getting any. When someone's really angry or down, or there's a blooming background to that, because it does feel like you get more and more frustrated than your partner does. But being able to talk about it and do things really differently, because I'm now on the other end going, okay, I need to please my partner, but he needs to know I've been pleased. So how do I do that?
Yeah.
And, fake it till you make it is sometimes one of the terms because it actually turns you on because of what's going on in your brain. But it's really hard to find the initiation. And it's taught me a lot because it's taught me where some of my clients have been.
Yeah.
And I've possibly pushed them through
Yeah.
without necessarily thinking too hard about how are they. And it's really, really, pardon the expression, screwed with my head. Because
Yeah.
wow, how many clients have done this and not actually, the women have been menopausal and they've told
Yeah.
me they're menopausal. And I've not understood it till I've done it, till I've hit it, till I've hit
Yeah.
that. I am feeling nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's that whole like willing versus wanting kind of discussion, like Betty Martin stuff there around, what are you willing to do versus what are you wanting to do? And that's still within the wheel of consent. But,
Yeah.
a lot of my brain injury clients talk about the lights being turned off, like becoming
Mm.
very like just loss of interest in sex. It's like someone just went, flick a switch and now I'm in the dark. And then they kind of talk around the 2-year mark, the dimmer light slowly starts to come on. And then with that, they're like, oh, hold on. Maybe I'm recognizing arousal again. Maybe is this desire?
Oh,
Like, I think we see the hyposexuality in brain injury a lot more than we see in spinal cord injury. That's interesting that you're kind of talking about that sort of being one of the main features of menopause as well, just being like, boom, gone.
and then when you've got spinal cord injury and you don't feel your clitoris,
Yeah.
there's no feedback loop. If I could feel my clitoris, then there might be a feedback loop that would get into arousal. But because of spinal cord injury, I haven't got that same strong feedback loop.
Yeah.
Even if the sensation, even if you've orgasmed before, it's 28 years since I had an orgasm, and I only learnt to orgasm the year before I got paralysed.
Yeah, right.
So
Timing.
yeah, it's a weird thing. So taking on the sensations, but I'm like, it's not strong enough to hit that arousal button yet.
Yeah.
And with a new partner, it would be. You know what I mean? It's when you've been in a long-term relationship and things are the way they are and they've been bloody amazing. But actually, if you met someone new, we know our brains will spark differently and you'll get that arousal because everything gets overridden because the chemicals get higher because it's a new partner. We'll give it 2 or 3 years with that partner, it's gone again. So it's about how do you manage the menopause and maintain all of that. So it's like all the work that we've been doing, and then it comes to fruition. You're like, oh my God.
And you're so skilled and you're saying it was bloody hard. Like, you're well more resourced than the average and still kind of saying it's bloody hard. Then no wonder it's so hard.
Also for me, it's about not accepting it.
Uh-huh.
I should relax and accept that, but one of the reasons I went to the Powdered Pussy weekend is to challenge myself a little bit more and just go, actually, there's still a lot I can learn. Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? We just never have everything. With my partner, who is so bloody amazing, just being able to be together in that way, it's a grief. It's a loss, and he accepts that it's a struggle. So with initiation, it's very much like, got to push this. Don't just lie in bed thinking I'd like to. Just go, right, come on, quickie, now. You've got to be a little bit more forceful these days. And he's taken that on board.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new learning, and we go through stages, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. That's human sexuality across the life course. We've got all kinds of different things, and spinal cord injury is another complexity, but it doesn't get you out of menopause and it doesn't get you out of a whole heap of other things that people are like, oh, good, maybe I can just park that. That was one of my ladies just this last week kind of said to me, it just feels a bit unfair that I have to have menopause. I've been so much other stuff. Like, surely I should get a pass go collect $200 type pass on this one. She's just like, this is just shit, because I have enough. I have more than the average woman. That's more than my fair share. She's more than happy to say bye-bye periods, but she was just like hot, angry, and emotional. And I think grief was a bit of it. She was like, I don't really care. I'm done with babies. I don't want, like, fertility is not part of it, but it was something around, she was trying to maybe put a finger on it, saying something around just the aging and the fragility of life, and just like, what, already? Like, but I'm only just starting. Like, what do you mean now? So,
and then getting through that stage and going, you know what, it's pretty good not having periods. So there are great things about it as well. It's like, and I feel more emotionally stable than I've ever done in my life.
There you go.
Now with HRT.
With HRT. So the take home here is return to the GP, talk about menopause, remind them that just because you have a spinal cord injury doesn't mean that you can't have HRT. Like, it's not a straight rule out. I think there was probably a bit of a assumption around clots and DVTs and risks that people would just say, oh no, it's too risky. But that's not been your experience at all. Yeah,
That's
cool.
why they put me on transdermal. So it's a
Yeah.
more equal effect. They might add progesterone to it if they need to, or, so they'll really look at obviously the meds that you're on as well. And I'm not on anything, so that's quite easy. So it's just looking at how it all interfaces with each other. Because if we think about it, we're replacing the hormones that we've lost, and we're only losing them because our body's not caught up with our lifestyles. Actually, we're losing them in our 50s, but we're living till we're flipping 90, whereas we're losing them in our 50s and dying when we were 60 originally. And especially for health, estrogen is in every cell of our body. So at the end of the day, adding those things back in the purest form that we can. So really looking at how synthetic the HRT is. So finding the best HRT for you it's as natural as it can be. So you can start out on HRT kind of a little bit earlier if you're still having your periods, but they're not regular. And you can use Everol. There's two different names for them. One's sort of, you will take it like the pill. You will put the patch on, but then you will allow yourself a week off to have a period. Or not, up to you. And then there's the sequential one that you will take constantly, and you'll just put that on every 2.5 days, or every 3 days, 3.5 days, new patch. And actually that's so much better than the tablets. Like with anything transdermal, it's an easy way for your body to take it in on a constant, as opposed to it being a tablet. That really helps.
So was it the gynecologist that you ended up seeking advice from, or your general practitioner?
My general practitioner, actually, who was really blooming good. I haven't asked at the spinal unit about it, because they have no more information.
I think like women's health issues can be sort of like peeled apart. I mean, we don't expect our spinal rehab physicians to know everything about everything. Like, there's other specialties that specialize in other stuff and just have to do the follow up. And, women's health issues, whether they're mammograms or pap tests or menopause, it's all part of it, eh? Yeah. And that was our mini episode about menopause and spinal cord injury. If this is relevant to your own personal journey, I encourage you to talk with your GP or your rehab specialist about your options. And I hope that Michelle sharing her story has inspired others to be proactive in the management of menopause and hopefully reassure you that you're not alone. For the health professionals that are listening, I hope this episode sparked a reminder to be curious about the experience of menopause with your clients and to encourage them to seek support. So thank you for listening to this episode. And if you've enjoyed it, please consider sharing it with a mate or giving A Really Good Sex Chat a review on Spotify so others can find it too. Thank you, and until next time.